Hi, I'm Andy Goldy, COO for North American Rescue, and today I'm joined by Stephen Holley. As a former Navy SEAL and co founder of Carry the Load, Stephen is working to bring Americans together to honor our nation's heroes every day. Stephen, thank you for your service. We're honored to have you here today.
Andy, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's start from the beginning. What inspired you to join the Navy?
Well, growing up, I had two grandfathers that both served on World War II. And so, that military history and heritage was always in my family, but it wasn't until high school, being very serious about football, I was recruited by the Naval Academy. I took a recruiting trip up there, and it was an opportunity. Was offered the opportunity to go to school there, play football. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, and so that's what started my military career. Was 4 years at the U.S. Naval Academy.
Outstanding. So now that you're separated and you're in civilian life, what does it mean to you to be a veteran?
You know, as a I think about folks that have honorably served. I think about the opportunities, very unique opportunities and experiences that I had, being able to travel the world and to see things that most people don't get to see. And so those experiences shape your perspective, so to speak, on a lot of different things throughout your life. And just very grateful to have been able to serve this nation and you know, have those experiences at what is, for most people, a relatively, young age in their life.
Outstanding. Well, what can you tell us about the program and what inspired you and co-founder Clint Bruce to start Carry the Load?
Well, Carry the Load was started over 10 years ago here in Dallas, and it really was born out of some pain and frustration. Memorial Day weekend rolled around, and it was on the heels of Clint and I losing some good friends of ours that we served with at SEAL Team 5. And Memorial Day rolled around, and there wasn't a lot of mention of, there was a lot of talk about the 3-day weekend that starts the summer, barbecues, getting together, but there wasn't a whole lot of discussion around the real meaning of Memorial Day. And so, Clint and I got together and we started talking about an event where people could come out and have a meaningful Memorial Day experience. And through that event, we would raise money for other nonprofits that were supporting military veterans, law enforcement, fire and rescue, first responders, and their families, across a very broad, what we call continuum of care. And the third thing we wanted to do was hopefully at that time was create an event that we could package, for lack of a better term, and be able to give to other communities across the country where they could raise money for those constituents, wherever they lived. And so that was the genesis of the event. And here we are 10 plus years later, and we're in 48 of the 50 states. We'll have 50 plus rallies going on across the country during the month of May, and we'll have 5 national relays going nonstop 24/7 that all cover cumulatively about 20,000 miles, and they'll all end up here in Dallas Memorial Day weekend to kick off what we call our Dallas Memorial March. And again, we're bringing awareness to Memorial Day. We're raising money, and ultimately, we're telling the stories of men and women who've made the ultimate sacrifice for this country.
Yeah, we've watched some of the videos on those and the impact it can have on folks. And the mantra that keeps coming up is uh, helping others make their packs a little bit lighter. Can you kind of talk about that tagline and how that came about?
Yeah. So when we started this, it was there were somewhat of selfish motives. We as veterans wanted a place or an opportunity or an event where we could go, again, have a meaningful Memorial Day experience. What we didn't calculate, and really what has fueled our growth across the country in the last over the last decade was, and again, I as a veteran since 9/11, I think percentage wise, it's less than 1% have worn the uniform in the last 20 plus years, but I call it the 1%. So we started it for the 1%. What we didn't realize was, tapping into the 99% who haven't served but wanted to have, new Memorial Day was more than, barbecues and mattress sales. And so we tapped into that 99%. And though they didn't serve or maybe didn't have a direct connection, everyone's carrying something. in their life, some sort of burden psychologically. And so when the magic of our event was when we got the 1% together with a 99%, and that fellowship and interaction that takes place, it feeds both of those groups, and both of them come away better for it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic comment. I can share some of that same sentiment. I'm a veteran myself and was served for 5 years, but in a non-combat time, and I don't carry a lot of the baggage and challenges that others that I work with now or I'm friends with have served with. So these events, even for those who have served that just don't have the same kind of impact from their service time, this is a really great way to connect and like you said, carry the load for others that you care about that do have that. So, talking about transitioning from your military life into your civilian life, we know that can be a complex process. What impact has serving in the Navy had in your outside life?
The people you tried to warn me about, what that transition might be like, or the challenges that could arise. And, as at the time, I didn't give it much thought, but as I got into a civilian career and started raising a family, there were issues I was dealing with that kept bubbling up and manifesting in ways that weren't always most positive or productive for myself and my family. And what it really boiled down to for me was, taking off the uniform, there was really a loss of identity, and there was a loss of sense of purpose, coming out of the SEAL teams and leaving some really close friends in that community. And while raising a family, obviously, and having a civilian career is extremely important. What I learned was, and I also learned in talking through dozens and dozens of other veterans that were in similar circumstances as I was and had transitioned out, was there was still a hole, and that hole wasn't filled until I figured out a way to continue to serve. And luckily, Carry the Load came around within about 4 years of exiting the Navy. And so for me, that was really a turning point in my life, and it filled a big hole and that sense of purpose. And again, the ability to keep serving in some capacity. And I would argue that 99% of veterans have that itch that needs to be scratched. They need to be involved in something bigger than themselves. And so figuring that out and being able to channel that was extremely important for me.
Well, and the hard work you're doing is bringing others into the fight. And I know you guys have done a fantastic job of raising money and resources for the veteran communities. You mentioned continuum of care before. What are some of the focus areas, meaningful areas for supporting our veteran communities that you're really drilling down on?
So we support dozens and dozens of nonprofits across the United States on again what we call the continuum of care. That's anything from physical, mental health, suicide awareness and prevention, housing assistance, career transition assistance. We support some very unconventional recreational therapies, educational opportunities for Gold Star families. Again, very, very broad range. And you can go to carrytheload.org and click on that nonprofit partner link to learn about all of them, because they're all doing phenomenal work. But again, for us, we're a vehicle to raise money and to put money in the hands of the subject matter experts in each of these individual fields. Because what I've learned in the last 10 years is we can't be all things to everybody. And everybody's transition out of the military is a little bit unique based on their set of circumstances. And so there's a lot of different aspects that are important to different folks. And so being able to support a wide range of services has always been very important to us.
That's great. So for those who might not know, and in closing here, how can we respectfully celebrate our nation's heroes and those who have fallen this coming Memorial Day?
I think it's important for people to know, Carry the Load is an event where I always tell people that whether you come out to an event like Carry the Load, or there's many, many events across this country that happen on Memorial Day weekend that pay homage to the true meaning of this holiday. And whatever you do, if it's going to an event, if it's going to Carry the Load, if it's even taking 30 seconds or 10 minutes to talk with those that you're spending time with on Memorial Day weekend about what service and again, that ultimate sacrifice really means. We're blessed to live in a country where men and women will raise their hand and will make that ultimate sacrifice. And so, it can be different for different people, but I think everyone at some point, no matter how long, should take a moment and reflect upon what Memorial Day is all about.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. So Stephen, thank you so much for taking some time for us today. We appreciate everything you're doing and look forward to continuing to partner with you. So again, thank you, and we'll see you again next time on Schein Chats.
I appreciate the opportunity, and again, look forward to doing it again.